It's been 15 years since the release of the original Dead Space, a survival horror that takes place in space and sees players taking on hordes of undead alien-like creatures called Necromorphs. From very early on, I felt like it was one of the scariest games I've ever played. The success of the first game spawned 2 sequels, 2 spin-offs, and some animated media. Now in 2023, that first game received the remake treatment thanks to EA's Motive Studio, and it's excellent. If you've played the original, the premise of the game will feel familiar. You assume the role of Isaac Clarke, a ship systems engineer on board the Killian, a ship sent to investigate why communications have ceased with the planet cracker ship the USG Ishimura. Isaac's girlfriend Nicole also just happens to be assigned to the Ishimura, so he's volunteered to be part of the team to find out what happened to her. Upon their arrival, the Killian malfunctions and crashes into the Ishimura. The team discovers that the crew is nowhere to be found, and aggressive creatures called Necromorphs have overrun the ship. They'll have to explore the Ishimura to find any surviving crew members while also looking for a way to escape this horror. While the premise of the game is essentially the same, some changes have been made throughout the 12 chapters. These range from fleshing out certain characters to adjusting how early you might stumble upon a particular weapon during a chapter. The latter is done in such a way that it feels like part of the story as you find a new weapon, as opposed to just buying it from the in-game shop. Another change is that Isaac is now fully voiced, which greatly improves the storytelling. Additionally, there are side quests which flesh out parts of the story and show off some of the events that lead up to the outbreak or hollow videos of Isaac's girlfriend Nicole. When it comes to the gameplay, controlling Isaac feels a lot smoother. He still feels pretty weighty as you navigate him across the Ishimura, but the movement doesn't feel as clunky. I feel much better equipped to evade Necromorphs when accosted by more than one at a time. All of the weapons from the original game are present in this remake, and they are just as, if not more, devastating this time. Alternate firing modes are also available, however some are slightly different, but if anything they are more effective. Some more changes to the gameplay come in the form of using kinesis in combat and zero gravity. Instead of just moving objects or solving puzzles, kinesis can now be used to hurl items at enemies. Throw pretty much anything at them to make them flinch a bit, or dish out big damage by impaling them with sharp objects or flinging explosive canisters. The zero gravity sections allow you to freely move around instead of having to leap from wall to wall. Technically, these aspects were present in the original game, but they weren't utilized this way until Dead Space 2 and 3. The combat kinesis is a welcomed addition as it adds another weapon to your arsenal without having to expend precious ammunition. The zero gravity mechanics feel like they've been lifted straight from Dead Space 2. While it does take some getting used to, especially when having to fight Necromorphs this way, it makes more sense than what was used in the original game. The dark and tight corridors of the USG Ishimura made Dead Space incredibly memorable when delivering some of its signature scares. The remake improves upon the experience by tweaking the layout somewhat. Some areas have been changed around a bit to help the level flow better, while others have new events introduced such as decompression, poison gas, or the new circuit breaker puzzles. The latter requires you to reroute power from one object to another in order to progress. Earlier on, you'll have to turn off the light in order to make use of an elevator. In one of the later chapters, you'll have to turn off the oxygen in order to unlock a door that is some distance away. The catch is that on the way to the door, there are a number of Necromorphs that will attack you. It's actually such a simple mechanic, but it's incredibly effective in the way it ramps up the tension. Speaking of tension, Dead Space makes use of a mechanic called the Intensity Director to make your playthrough as unique as possible. While it sounds like a feature to make the game more of a nightmare, in essence it's just to make sure that something is always happening to keep players on their toes. The director will generate random occurrences during your playthrough, such as the lighting changing or fog might suddenly appear to obscure a room. Additionally, if the director notices you backtracking to a save point or shop in a previously cleared area, it might leave a Necromorph or two lying in wait for an ambush. It's a feature that works really well for keeping the tension up. There are already scripted scares in the game, but sprinkling in some random events keeps the experience fresh. One of the more obvious upgrades in the Dead Space remake is the game's visuals. It looks incredible and runs quite smoothly even when Isaac is being attacked by a group of enemies. The lighting, or rather the lack of lighting, has been used in such a way that it keeps you on the edge of your seat. There are times when a single light illuminates a large room, or when you actually can't see past a few meters in front of you without bringing up your weapon. Plus, there are moments in the story when the darkness houses an uncomfortable secret, only for the lights to come on and reveal what it was hiding. It's fantastic. There is a slight hiccup with the visuals, and this is only visible if you try to look at Isaac from up close. He tends to look a bit fuzzy when maneuvering the camera right up against him. It's not a big issue, but it is noticeable. Another new feature in the game is the peeling system. This introduces layered flesh, tendons and bones on the Necromorph model so that the damage done is clearly visible. As you dismember your enemies, you'll be able to see skin tearing open and bones shattering, which really tangibilizes how Isaac picks him apart piece by piece. Once a force gun is found later in the game, it's definitely worth trying to fire it at a Necromorph at close range just to watch their skin peel back. It's so satisfying. The sound design is also excellent. The weapons sound great and the snarls and roars of the different Necromorphs even more so. The music also does such a good job of making your hair stand on end when hearing the plucking of violin strings and not knowing where an enemy might be lurking nearby. Plus the sounds of Isaac's stomps are just downright brutal. The Dead Space remake is excellent. The narrative is significantly more enjoyable thanks to Isaac being fully voiced and the characters being fleshed out a little more. The gameplay feels so much smoother and less clunky now, plus the new puzzles and tweaks to the layout make levels flow a little better. The Intensity Director is also a great new addition and is something that I honestly love to see in other survival horror titles. The visuals, while fuzzy when viewing Isaac up close, are actually fantastic. The way lighting and the lack thereof have been utilized results in a much more tense experience. The sound design is also top notch. From the sound effects to the weapons and terrifying music, it's just all fantastic. This is a bold statement, but Dead Space feels like the gold standard when it comes to remakes, and it's so clear that the developers at EA Motive have taken the original game and handled it with such care when crafting this experience. If you enjoyed this review, please don't forget to hit that like button, and if you're new around here, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you got your hands on Dead Space, please let me know what you thought of the game in the comment section down below. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.